Dear listener, thank you for tuning in once again to Off the Deep End. We are currently running a State of Deep Listens census survey thing. We're putting together a ranked list of our favorite video games of all time across the entire community. They can be from any platform, any genre, any reasoning you can come up with. That's totally fine. The link to take this survey is included in the description of this podcast. You can also find links to it on our Discord. The survey will be open at least until the end of the month, probably. We've had a bunch of people turn in responses. They're very interesting. We look forward to posting the results in early July. Thank you. Now on to the show. Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. My name is Jeff Braden, the host, the ringleader, the electro-pupper of this operation. Joining me today, as always, we have the aqua-canid Braden, Arbitrary Water Redacted. Hello, Braden.
Hi, hello.
Also, as always, we have the notorious Necro Doggo, Chris, Zombie Pie, Redacted.
What color do you think Sonic the Hedgehog's is?
Starting off...
Gino's gonna yell at you again.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna make the cut. Yes, we are all various specific elemental term plus term for dog things. Because if you didn't already know, on this episode we're going to be discussing Grandia II. It's an RPG. It was developed by Game Arts and published originally by Game Arts on the Sega Dreamcast on August 3rd, 2000 in Japan, and subsequently released in the US, published by Ubisoft, and I think Europe as well. And then subsequently also released on the PlayStation 2, the Microsoft Windows platform, and the Nintendo Switch. Just to finish off the fun, pre-game show here, if you'd like to be a part of the discussions of Grandia II that will be ongoing for a while now, because we're not talking about the whole game here. In fact, this is probably going to be like the first 6 hours plus our usual gong show shit. So if you'd like to be a part of the ongoing discussions, kick into the Patreon. That's right, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/deeplistens. Patreon.com/deeplistens. Any dollar amount that you contribute to that Patreon will get you access to a very, very definitely cool, not at all discordant, ultra secret Discord full of food pictures and Final Fantasy memes and people talking about Opera Omnia ad nauseum. And if that's beyond you, you can still interact with us via electronic mail. You can send emails to inquiries@deep.lol. That is inquiries@deep.lol. And we will read them on air and respond to your questions. Ask about what color Sonic's is. We'll probably tell you. That's only one. What color is Big the Cat's?
Yell at us about, our bad choices. Or suggest more bad choices.
Speaking of bad choices, normally, we clear things with Jeff about a podcast series that he puts a lot of time on. But
oh no!
While you guys were not planning, I decided to debut a new segment for this podcast that is clearly not mine.
What's the segment?
Tell me about your stream. Tell me about your stream. Tell me about your stream.
Oh, I thought you said Timmy belt your stream. No, it's okay.
Tell me about your stream.
I realize we're all from like the Mountain West, but we are not going to belt Timmy on this podcast, okay?
But this is where Braden and I very briefly talk about what we've been doing on Twitch. Braden,
sure, why not?
I wholly sign off on this because you guys are out there doing that thing. So you have the floor.
That's right. All right. Hi, hello. I'm Braden Arbitrary Redacted.
Last 2 weeks of bad, dubious RPGs. Go.
All right. I played. You can follow me on twitch.tv/arbitrarywater if you would like to join me in playing questionable RPGs and also good video games sometimes. This last week, I played through I played 2 hours of The Last Remnant and was bored and annoyed.
I think that's the quickest I've ever seen you get broken by an RPG, because normally it's the 2 hour mark, but you were like busted by like hour 1.
Yeah. By the end of the first hour, I wanted to stop, but I did not. I am also, by the time you hear this, I will have played through the entirety of Fear 3 to celebrate its 10th anniversary with a friend of mine.
Classic game now.
The classic game, for 3-year.
It's Retronauts material. It's 10 years old or whatever.
Jeremy Parrish, give me a call.
So what else have you been playing? It's Fear 3. You finished your Resident Evil 6 thing because you hate yourself.
Yep, I finished The Evil Within because that was a donation incentive for the charity stream we did a couple months back. I said I would play through another one of the games, and people voted for The Evil Within.
How does that hold up compared to the second one? I get the sense it don't.
Hi.
Braden has
Jeff.
Controversial takes.
All right.
Exact subject.
All right. If we want to break this down, I can break this down. I like The Evil Within. The Evil Within is a flaming mess of a video game.
Okay.
Where it is where you can see the bits where it is almost great because Shinji Mikami, it turns out, is like, a veteran game designer who knows his shit, but also like that game clearly had a troubled development and has no idea what the fuck it's doing half the time, but also it's trying. And the DLC is extra bad because it's all stealth focused. The second game plays a lot better, even if it is also like less insane. I'll probably stream that at some point.
Okay.
Chris, what have you been playing?
It's been nothing but indie visual novels. I did prior to this recent grind and, wrapping up the school year. I was playing Grandia II on stream and having a lot of interesting folks jump in. There's something to be said about the perilous world of streaming you playing a JRPG and like the drive-by viewers that you can sometimes attract, willing to spoil anything and everything, as well as judging you loudly about how well you are playing the game.
That sounds super fun.
I've had nothing but good times with Grandia fans, and I want to get back into streaming Grandia 2. People keep telling me that this game gets hard, which we will talk about. But I have yet to see that part. But the things that I've been streaming that have been extra interesting is nothing but visual novels. And Braden has been one of my most popular guests. I've been playing the visual novel renditions and adaptations of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition.
Ooh.
So the first of which is Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York, followed by the sequel Vampire the Masquerade Shadows of New York. And then there is a third one that is a Zork clone. It is a complete text adventure, interactive
choose your
fiction,
own adventure thing.
Choose your own adventure thing, set again in the world of Vampire the Masquerade. And I've just started the Werewolf the Apocalypse visual novel thing.
Well,
and that's probably the worst one.
75% of the way through.
Yeah, this is probably the worst of them.
It has art.
It has art. They made some choices.
They made some choice. Like, Arts. Hey, I get it. Art, like, getting people to draw art for your visual novel about werewolves. A werewolf?
Werewolves.
And trying
absolutely
to
fascinating.
Well, remember they're called Garu.
Oh, that's right.
We have to use
the werewolves call themselves Garo
vocabulary so as that we can get away with our little fucking art house bullshit tabletop game.
There's only one Garo I acknowledge, and it was
Mark
made
of
by
the
SNK.
Wolves.
Yep.
Anyway,
This podcast is now about Garo, Mark of the Wolves.
there's some lore there, but I guess there's a Samurai Showdown RPG basically on the Neo Geo CD.
Oh, there is.
There
That's
is.
right.
Not to totally derail this, but you talk about Zork a little bit ago, briefly, or a Zork-esque game. Is Zork material for this show?
That's a good question. Interactive fiction goes places. In the case of Vampire the Masquerade's Zork clone, you actually use your character sheet to figure. Well, Jeff, you as a fellow World of Darkness person, the way that skill checks work in the World of Darkness is you basically fill in orbs and then cross them out or erase them. You actually do that in this Zork clone thing.
Huh.
So it's actually kind of cool. They completely pare down, for most of these visual novels, the World of Darkness character sheets to just maybe 3 stats. In the Werewolf the Apocalypse, it's just rage, willpower, and health, which seems like a really good way to make the entire World of Darkness character sheet intelligible. But they use a similar thing there. I just wrote about all of the Vampire the Masquerade visual novels on Giant Bomb, so you can catch that. Overall, my recommendations are Coteries of New York is a really good way to wrap your mind around the current meta and world of 5th edition because they have changed a lot. It also front loads a lot of vocabulary. It has a really devastatingly terrible plot twist at the very end. Braden knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, I watched you play through both Coteries and Shadows, and the way Coteries ends is just a big old fat world building hook.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's a better on-ramp than 5th edition's starter kit, which is a weird thing. And the fact that, Paradox, which now owns the World of Darkness, Paradox being the makers of Hearts of Iron 4 and Crusader Kings 2 and 3 and Stellaris. They own all of the World of Darkness now, and they've actually been a really good owner. For example, holding people who are being shitty accountable for being shitty.
Hey,
which is not something you could say about,
Wizards of the
Paizo, Wizards of the Coast,
Games Workshop,
the entire OSR.
Yeah,
community.
There's some people I follow who used to work for Paizo on Twitter, and I hear things. Anyway, not to.
But Paradox actually does their job of these guys created toxic community. We've fired all of them.
Yeah, at some point we will have to talk about tabletop RPGs.
We will have to talk about tabletop RPGs and the toxicity of the entire hobby, but for another time. Shadows of New York is great.
Shadows of New York is real good.
Shadows of New York is maybe the best story of featuring vampires in the last 10 years, and I really like Bloodlines 1. But that's old. That's ancient history, though.
Yeah.
Shadows of New York is great. The text adventure, just to give you an idea, the text adventure is over 600,000 words long.
It's extensive. That's novel length.
And I actually talked about it, but the developer of Night Road, they are probably one of the coolest developers that you've maybe never heard of. They are what is it? Night Road. Their name is, give me a second because I do want to look this up. Yeah, Choice of Games, which they are an award-winning developer of text adventures and only text adventures. They're award-winning in part because they have created a culture of including every gender type or gender orientation, sexual orientation, different ethnic groups, being very inclusive, and then also creating a platform on their website in which homebrew text adventure designers and writers can share their works and get, immediate feedback from industry veterans. They are good people. You should follow them. You should do the thing. And the reason why I'm doing Werewolf the Apocalypse, the visual novel, is because I'm going to play this visual novel. Then I need to see what this Werewolf the Apocalypse third-person action stealth game is all about. That everyone
It's an
told me
RPG.
It's an RPG. I hear it's bad.
I'm not going to allow you to suggest it for the podcast.
No, I would never do that.
No, of course not.
But anyways, yeah, follow me on Twitch. Same name format. Blah, blah, blah. / Zombie Pie. I forget, am I GB Zombie Pie? Because it might have been taken at the time. No, it is twitch.tv / Zombie Pie. ZOMBIEPIE.
Very cool.
All right. Thank you, Jeff, for letting us do that.
No, I see you guys out there doing the hustle, and I just don't have the stomach
Tune in
for
when
it.
you can. That's not directed at you. Just tune in when you can. Follow us whenever.
Please like and subscribe.
I made $4.50 this month.
Hey,
I'm gonna have to file taxes on this shit.
practically pays for itself. You can find me on Twitch once a year during the Giant Bomb Community Endurance Run, and maybe for Extra Life, but not historically. I will say I continue slowly to trickle things out onto namcompendium.com. I may have a couple things going up somewhere else soon that I can't talk much about yet, but
Jeff, just to
will.
give you a hard time again and
Yeah.
to go slightly off topic, did you ever figure out what your top 5 consoles are after you issued your correction within the podcast?
Top 5, Jeff's top 5 video game
PS2.
platforms of all time.
Genesis.
Number 1, the Sega Mega
360.
Drive, easy. Nothing.
You're gonna put the Genesis over the PS2?
Yep. Just for things that I enjoy. There's nothing wrong with the PlayStation 2. It's in fact the second thing on this list. But for something that gets me excited, the thing that I actively enjoy going out and hunting and collecting for, it's easily the Mega Drive. There's not even any real competition.
Okay.
Number
I
2,
respect it.
PS2. You barely even need to explain why. If you like virtually any genre of video game,
genre.
it's on there. And it's also backwards compatible with the PS1, so you get games from roughly 1994 to about 2014. That's 20 years of video. There will be probably nothing ever like that again. Number 3, the NES stroke Famicom. Just good arcade stuff.
Okay.
Fun explorative RPGs. Everything else is kind of a blur after that. Because I think it's all these highlights I couldn't really stretch out. But I think in terms of historical impact, it's really, 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 really important that you don't undercut the PC Engine. Because it was, of all the things, in the United States, people talk about Sega being this, the Genesis comes out and then Sonic comes out, and it's wow, Nintendo has competition now. That basically happened in Japan 3 or 4 years prior, and it was the PC Engine that did that. It pretty much broke. It was the beginning of breaking the Nintendo monopolies.
I would just say, even though we are close to the same age, Jeff, having a top 5 with the PC Engine and not the 360 feels bad.
The 360 is a really fucking good console, even when you include the fact that the first 20 million or so of them literally stopped working, and there's nothing you could do about it. And even that's kind of impressive because Microsoft was so we literally can't get out of this fight now that they ate billions of dollars doing a make good on that. So that alone I think is pretty impressive. But then you factor in that the library is pretty nuts. They had fledgling backwards compatibility. internet connectivity, Halo 3 being online, etc. I remember being in a dorm in 2007, because I'm older than both of you, and it was like, I was a freshman, I moved into a dorm in college, and people were still playing Halo 2. Halo 3 came out, and people were like, holy shit, we're going to be playing Halo 3 forever, this is amazing. And then it feels like about a month later, COD 4 came out, and people were just like throwing their copies of Halo 3 away, just being like, fuck this, we're playing COD 4
remember the complete opposite. I remember Halo keeping a blow-for-blow fight with, like, map packs.
It went pretty hard at name of school for me. I mean, there was definitely... This is getting way into the weeds. So I lived in a dorm. There were 16 rooms in like a hallway, and two of the lads that lived there paid money to have like single rooms. But what they did was they both bunked together in one room, and then the other room that they had, which was across the hall, was functionally this extra living room that everyone would use, mostly them, but they would just let people hang out in there. So they had what at the time was like a preposterously large TV, like a 40-inch flat screen or something in a dorm. And that was where you would go to play Halo 3 pretty much for like the entire time I lived in that dorm. But my roommate, who got a 360 some point like towards the end of freshman year, was like... I learned how to sleep through Call of Duty really well because that motherfucker played a lot of Call of Duty 4 and didn't stop. Like, every successive year, they'd get the new one and just keep going. I'm still very close friends with this person, but, man, I think I could literally sleep through, like, Stalingrad, probably, because I already had to. Yeah, consoles, they're fun. You should play the one that you enjoy. There's the one that you like, and then there's the wrong one. There's my actual answer.
We're about to play a game that was originally exclusive to what I think is one of the most overrated consoles that people have nostalgia for, the Dreamcast. Let's jump into it. Grandia II.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about, because I think I'm the only one here playing this on a Dreamcast. This is mostly a chance to pitch somebody. Their name is Krista Lee. They go by Oh Poor Pup on Twitter. They are based in Seattle, and they will mod your consoles for you if you are squeamish about doing electronic work for very, very, very unbelievably reasonable rate. They're extremely professional, and they do a great job. Can't recommend them enough. I'm not a paid advertisement person. I'm just a happy customer. But I bring this up because I did not own a Dreamcast until about 8 months ago. I think the over-under on all of this shit has gone really crazy in the retro market because of COVID stuff and people being at home. So I kind of figured if I wanted to own a Dreamcast, it was probably never going to be cheaper than, like, right at the beginning of the plague. So I got one, and it happened to be a kiosk model, which are kind of weird. They basically have extra, like, heat pipes running through them. It's got a mode in there. It's been recapped. The fan has been replaced with the stock kiosk fan with some, like, one I bought from France that took, like, a week to import. And, like, all of that's really cool. I have access to the entire Dreamcast library now on a solid-state drive, and it's pretty nifty. And here's the thing. There are two really important things. One, memory card management on the Dreamcast is so fucking awful that I don't even think it's worth owning the system, like, full stop. Like, you should probably just be emulating the thing. Like, each memory card has the equivalent of, like, 200 blocks. They're using, like, a fake unit. And there are games that require, like, the Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure 2 requires, like, 128 of those blocks just to save.
Wow.
So, when you look at the controller, which is where the memory cards dock, there are 2 ports for memory cards in there. I think as soon as you have to
you
make
mean
decisions...
the VMU, Jeff.
Yes.
The virtual memory unit.
I think as soon as you start making decisions like that, like we need to have a second memory card port in our controller because our memory cards are small, someone should probably be like, well, wait, why don't we just make a bigger memory card? And like they kind of did, but they're all kind of kludgy. They would switch between like virtual sets of memory. Like it's a real pain in the ass. 2, that controller fucking sucks. Like the stock Dreamcast controller is bad. I don't think it's necessarily because it's missing a second stick. I think it's just kind of an awkward, clumsy thing to hold. Button positioning is just kind of weird. That stick doesn't feel great. It's a very, very bad controller compared to like a DualShock 2, which are virtually bomb-proof. The sticks are totally fine. It was very familiar, and yeah, it's kind of a nightmare. That said, that is what I'm playing Grandia 2 on because I'm now $100 in on the fucking thing.
Oh, so, weird.
Yeah, I mean, between the system itself, the mode, getting the power supply recapped, 2 VMUs, the fucking fan replacement. That's so. TLDR, Grandia 2 is pretty good. Don't bother doing what I've done unless you already have a Dreamcast. Just get the fucking PC
I've
version.
I've also been told, and this is going to lead to the one that Braden and I played, I've also been told that the original PS2 game had issues and that it was, even at the time, not the best. Like, it had frame rate issues, it had coloring issues, there were texture quality issues. That version is bad. Just get the remaster version that Braden and I played.
Yes.
It's mostly okay, except...
Yeah, it's based on the Dreamcast code, except it's also, like, still a janky Japanese port
shit,
that,
dude.
like...
I mean, the parts of the game where they actually took the time to make it look good are fine. Like, they've added new shadows, they've added new textures there, but then every now and again, the game plays animations where they didn't fix the sprite work, and it's just the jankiest shit.
Are you talking about the spells specifically?
Oh my god,
I'm telling you, that's just what they look like, because I'm playing the original article, and they
probably just didn't have the source files anymore.
Yeah, like, we're fast-forwarding into talking about this game's aesthetics, but here we are. Yeah, like, so... It's, at least on the Dreamcast, kind of a flat, shaded, polygonal game that looks like clean. It looks like a Dreamcast game, which is like its own specific aesthetic. I think everything on the Dreamcast looks a little like harder edged than the PS2 generally for me, like whatever. But then you'll cast spells, and in the middle of combat, it'll be, polygonal, kind of flat shaded, cell shaded adjacent character, and they will say like, name of spell in like some really, really weird audio quality. And then a CG layer. It's like they layer Power Ranger effects briefly
it's
over
like
the game.
Spells in Planescape Torment.
Yes.
Where it's just a big ol' like .avi file playing over the game.
And then there are the anime cutscenes, which maybe it flies on your version, Jeff, but the anime cutscenes are obviously in a 4:3 aspect ratio, but the PC version is designed to play widescreen, so it stretches the 4:3 to fit the entire screen.
Oh no, it doesn't jailbar it?
It's the best, worst thing ever.
PC ports are hard.
It stretches it, right, Braden? My brain did not...
Yep.
It stretches a 4:3 anime cuts. All of those anime cutscenes get stretched from 4:3 into widescreen.
That makes me kind of happy I'm not playing that, because I have an ultra-wide, so I'm trying to imagine those just being stretched like 30 feet across. Yuck. Oh, that's gross.
So,
the long-standing tradition of really good Japanese studio JRPG ports to PC, this is a whole thing.
The problem is like this is probably the best version of the game you're going to get, because this franchise is largely dead, and I'll talk about
owned by
why.
Who? Gung Ho? now?
Yes. So
Yes.
this is owned. Game Arts is now owned by Gung Ho, which there's something to be said about Gung Ho and the state of them. But Game Arts had a really interesting start and middle point, and then they kind of fall off a cliff. Basically, they started out as a MSX and PC Engine 88 developer. They made Thexter, they made Sylpheed, and they also made the Lunar games. So they were the original designers of Lunar, which is probably something that we need to look into playing at some point. And then we might have to play the Silver Star, Jeff. We might have to play the Silver Star.
It's
and all the perviness.
Speaking of our prior episode on early CD-based fun, Lunar is like the pinnacle of that shit in some sense. So.
Oh, God. Yeah. We gotta watch some anime hot spring scenes.
I showed my spouse the opening to Lunar the Silver Star at some point to try to explain like what I meant by big CD-ROM energy, and she's like, oh, which led us to watching like all of Tenchi Universe, by the way.
But anyways,
spoilers, pretty good.
They were never owned by Sega, but for some reason they were commonly cited as being Sega's answer or clapback to Square Enix.
Yeah, kind of second-party-ish for a while.
They were one of the more dedicated second-party JRPG designers for whether it was the Mega Drive, the CD, and even they were like a hardcore developer for the Sega Saturn, even when it did not financially make sense for them to continue to support the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
And they kept going at it. Eventually, they started porting their works to the PlayStation, but their heart was always to continue supporting Sega consoles. So Grandia 1 debuted on the Sega Saturn. It's a little rough in terms of its HD remaster, in part because it was designed for the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
It was later ported to the PlayStation, and then Grandia 2 started on the Dreamcast, was ported to the Sony PlayStation, and then Grandia 3 was exclusive to the PS2. Around the time of Grandia 3 was when you saw the financial height of Game Arts, but also the creative low point. So Grandia 3 comes out. Basically, from this point forward with Grandia 3, they are coasting on any exclusivity deals they can get. So they sign a deal with Microsoft Corp to reboot Project Sylpheed, or Sylpheed the franchise. And that game is trash. But the big contract that they ended up getting is they were the lead development studio behind Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And this is something that people don't know, is that the Smash Bros. Games are not actually made internally in Nintendo, even though that they have figureheads of Nintendo.
Namco Bandai helped make Smash 4
right now,
and Ultimate.
Yeah.
But Smash Bros. Is not made in Nintendo internal. They send their, figureheads to make sure that development goes along. But
it was
Smash
HAL
Bros.
Laboratories for the first game.
It was HAL the first time. Then Brawl... Melee, I think, was also HAL, but then Brawl was Game Arts, and then this most recent one was done by Namco.
Last two were Namco Bandai.
Yeah. So they made a lot of money on Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and then they kind of, like I said, fall off the face of the cliff, in part because something happened to their owner, Gung Ho Entertainment, that basically changed the entire Japanese video game industry, which is Gung Ho made a shit ton of money on gacha games.
Yeah.
And Gung Ho made probably the biggest game ever in the history of Everness, which is Puzzle and Dragons. And then also, that game makes $1 billion every year. At one point, Puzzle and Dragons made $7 billion in 1 year.
It's not fake Go money, but it's close.
This is not fake money. Gung Ho made that game, and they were able to buy, Grasshopper. So they own Grasshopper. They made Ragnarok Online, and basically Gung Ho for better or worse, has basically changed the face of Japanese game development because they made so much goddamn money. And that has basically caused them to put... I mean, Game Arts, after Smash Bros., has just been making HD remasters of their old games, and then also they're just servicing other games and other gacha games at this point, making just this endless stream of content for games that no one really plays.
Or millions of people play, just
millions
not
of
us.
people play, not us. But yeah, that's the unfortunate rise and fall of Game Arts and Grandia. I actually was exposed to Grandia 3 before playing this game, and I really liked that game. And I remember when I played that Ubisoft game that basically steals this combat system. What was it called? Child of Light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And saying, wait a minute, this gameplay seems familiar. When did I... And then I kept thinking that, oh, this is just Final Fantasy X. And then I was like, no, wait, there's something else that played more similarly to this, like a timeline system. And I realized it was actually Grandia.
Yeah, I had never played a Grandia game prior to this, but I'd picked up Child of Light as a Wii U owner desperate to play games on the Wii U. And it was like, one of the 5 things that came out one year. I was like, let's have a look at this. And yeah, having a look at this now, it's like, holy shit, they didn't... Like, it is shameless what they did. Like, it is the thing. They did what the Third Age did to Final Fantasy X, basically. Spoilers. It's unbelievable. And I kind of liked it there. Like, I think that game got kind of tedious at a certain point. This is a little snappier. But, yeah, I'm surprised this hasn't been lifted more than it has.
Well, if you join the Discord, my big thing is that this feels like the game that Final Fantasy X-2 and 12 tried to be, like being a sort of real-time, field-based,
it's a
animation
very active,
and time-based, active-based combat system. Like, this feels like the game that X-2 wanted to be, but didn't.
Yeah. There's definitely a similarity there with the way that X-2 is very much about initiative and timing, but doesn't really surface that in a useful way.
Yeah.
And even like 12, right, where they went full real-time combat, like there's still this like idea of you got to do your fast attacks, you've got to hit these windows of opportunity, you've got to take advantage, but then it's like everything's so slow. Final Fantasy 12, why do you play like this sluggish goddamn mess?
Yeah, and that's I'm actively playing 12 right now. I think I'm like past the halfway point of it, and yeah, there's timing involved for sure, and there's you put in spells, and there's a little bit of buffer. You have to wait for them to go off. But none of it is surfaced as neatly as this game. Like, it's not gamified in the way that Grandia 2 gamifies attacking and time it takes to do stuff, and positioning, and canceling, I think, is the main actual innovation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, 12 is wholly absent that, for sure. 10-2, I need to, like, go back and have a look at.
10-2 has interrupts.
Yeah, because, like, 10,
move canceling.
10 has the ability to push moves around to an extent, and that's, a large part, like, the breaking of the game comes with, like, stuff like haste and slow and shit. But this is different.
Yeah, so as the person who can explain these things the best, Jeff, why don't you explain mechanically how combat works in Grandia 2?
So, combat works with a menu that's too small. And
yeah, holy shit, dude! And it's way worse on widescreen, Jeff.
Not
I hate to break it
for
to you.
HD resolutions.
Holy shit!
The dark things that Jeff does. I was playing this on a 19-inch CRT over S-Video. I'm not a total SCART lunatic person, and the start menu. You like picture a start menu in your head. What is it? It's text-based. It's got like, items, attacks, options. And what this game uses is so what the fuck is wrong with you? Picture an orb. Like a take a cue ball and then divide it into 8 quarters, if you will. And to select various menu options, you have to rotate this sphere around for steps. It's like, okay, so that's a style choice. But now imagine that this sphere is like dead center of your screen and it occupies about 5% of the screen real estate. And now imagine looking at that on a 19-inch CRT from like 2 or 3 feet away. It's fucking inscrutable.
Now imagine, Jeff, doing that on a 27-inch 1440p computer monitor.
Yeah. And no scaling. Like, none.
Very little scaling.
And the menus on that screen really... We'll get into, like, leveling in a little bit, but, like, the different categories don't make sense, and they're really hard to remember sometimes.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I got
This is a
egg.
JRPG
Which one was the
from
egg?
2000.
Where the spells go? Where the spells are different than equipment, but then you've got the eggs, which are basically equipment. So yeah, it's completely...
I definitely PDF downloaded the manual for this one, and it made a little more sense, but it was a little cryptic.
Anyway, so let's say you equip your characters; they're all ready.
Yes. Combat, first of all, not random necessarily. There are enemies out in the field. Cool. Yeah. There is initiative notion, so if you bump into them from behind, you will have initiative. If they bump into you from the side or behind, they have initiative. That's nifty. Attacks play out, so there is, real time, there's the shit that is happening. There's you and whoever's in your party, and then some monsters. And a menu will pop up, and it gives you... Basically, there are 2 different ways to attack. There is, I think it's just called combo, and then there's crit. So those are kind of terms I think that they maybe should not have chosen, because I don't think they quite do what you think.
Yeah.
So combo is just, I would like to strike this enemy for, like, normal damage, pretty much. They tend to do more damage than crit. Yeah, you'll hit them 2 times. Critical, I would like to attack this enemy and basically push them back in the, like, turn order, and if they are basically have a command buffered,
attack, you can push them all the way back. Yeah.
And then on the bottom of the screen, there is just a linear bar, which everything is moving across, the first 3 quarters of which are, like, it is your ATB. But the last section of the ATB is, like, the time it takes to, like, buffer, input a command, and do the command. So, when you are choosing combo, like, there's not a particularly long time between inputting that command and having it be done. Crit takes a little bit longer, and then magic spells take quite a bit longer. And then on top of that, there's also spatial awareness stuff you need to be aware of. So you have the ability to select an option which is just move characters around. I have not found myself doing that really at all, because the game is pretty good about just closing distances and shit for you. There's probably a world where I'm playing this in a more optimal way and not having to heal as often by doing, like, move my people around.
Is it safe to say that this is just like a weird rendition of Final Fantasy VI active time battle system?
I mean,
I think that's simplification. Because I feel like the core of what Grandia does, that I think is one of the reasons we're all pretty hot on it right now, is that it is a combat system built almost entirely around this initiative bar and, like, stuffing enemy attacks over and over again if you plan it out right.
Right. That's the...
Because attacks have different buffering times, you can do something like hit an enemy with a critical attack while they are in the red portion of the bar, and then have another one of your characters charge up a special attack, which takes longer to come out, but it will hit the enemy again when they are in the red portion again, and stuff like that. It's very satisfying.
Yes, the M. Palladino juice of this game is learning when and how to keep people kicked out of that action portion of that bar for as long as possible, and just stun locking them to death, pretty much. The first time I managed to do that is maybe the most fun thing I've done in a JRPG in a very long time. Like, there are, just played through 10 again, been actively kind of touching Final Fantasy 12. We played all of fucking Xenosaga in here, and like they're good. Don't get me wrong, but it's, if you've story shit notwithstanding, if you've played one of these games,
raw mechanics,
yeah, like if you've played one of them, if you've played Final Fantasy 4, you have played every single one of these games pretty much in some sense, and this is something that is a little bit different, and it's kind of fucking awesome to have something that's just a little bit different. I'm glad it does stick out a little bit too, because the plot, which we should touch on, is kind of but playing it is fun.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
It's getting there.
Things are happening.
But, like, I'm actually looking forward to fights, kind of.
Right.
Which is, I can't say that, but a lot of games.
Maybe one of a handful of JRPGs where I feel like I really look forward to boss battles.
Yeah.
Whereas, when we play our Final Fantasy games, sometimes I have this sense of existential dread. It's like, fuck, no. No.
Sure. Well, like, a Final Fantasy boss, again, I just finished 10, is like, okay, do I have the equipment and spell combo I have to get through this as busted as possible and as quickly as possible? Like, do I have double cast and Ultima?
Do I have to do?
Yeah, like, because they're just tend to just be, well, what makes this a boss? What makes this boss different from, like, a level 1 slime? And the answer is, like, 250,000 HP. And, like, a preposterously high defense score. It's like, okay, so I just need to, like, break through one of those vectors, and then the thing is done. And this is more like, how can I smartly get around this shit? Like, you don't feel like you need to necessarily... I guess you do. You're kind of... It's not cheating, but it's like, I have smartly made this boss completely enfeeblized by just kicking it out of its ability to do anything to me for a period of time, as opposed to, well, if I just spend another 5 hours trying to get, like, the sword that lets me cast this spell, then I can beat this boss at the end of the game, and it's not going to be a problem.
Also, a really criminally underrated part of this game is defending. This might have my favorite version of the defend command I've ever seen before.
Yeah, how does it work?
Not only do you reduce damage by like 60 or 75%, but also you significantly reduce your risk of being debuffed, which I feel like all RPGs should always let me do. If I'm defending, I should also have a lower chance of being debuffed. But more importantly, one of the biggest problems that I always have with like Final Fantasy's version of defend or guard is that you only really do it in boss fights where you feel like, shit, he's powering his big evil enemy laser, and this is just a waste of a turn. But then the speed of your next attack is halved, so you can defend and then immediately just wail on whatever's right next to you.
Resets your bar halfway, and if you get hit by it, it also if you get hit while you are defending, it also restores some of your skill points, which is what you use for your tech attacks, basically.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, special points go up if you defend more. So I feel like this game avoids the very common problem of, I'm just going to have everyone attack until they're dead trope of every JRPG I've played, which is, kill, 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 cure, kill, 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 mage use fire spell, kill, kill, kill.
Oh, I'm now out of juice. I need to either go to an inn or go to a crystal or something and re-up and then go back out.
Right. Yeah. I think the only nitpicky complaint that I have is this feels like a game that would definitely benefit from certain stats and certain parts of your character's, meters restoring at the end of the battle, or at the very least restoring completely when you level up. But then again, and this is also ye old-timey tradition of you just can go to the save crystal, which is just a conic. It's just a little cone.
Yeah.
Which, I love it. There's no real reason why the save crystals are just this 2000s era, like, conic, but I'll take it.
Big rainbow gradient.
I think the only command that I didn't really use or have not used is run away, or where you just pick a different part of the map to run to. I just haven't found enough situations where the field or the ground is turned into lava, or where I feel like
you also have a higher chance of evasion when you do that. And like if enemies attack while you are running past them and they physically miss you, they will miss.
I just haven't seen a good reason to use that attack or that command when you already have critical, attack, and defend.
Yeah, like I've never, like, I've had characters die a couple times, but I've not been wiped at any point so far. I've been able to just get people back up.
I think I've been wiped once, and that was just because I was being a dumbass.
Yeah,
I've definitely gotten through a lot of random encounters just by throwing as many mass target spells as possible.
Yeah, and that's the other thing to where I feel like...
We are all playing on normal, because they added a hard difficulty in the remaster. That is apparently like a little more like taxing in that sense.
And again, every single time I stream this game, someone chimes in, you keep complaining that it's too easy, it gets hard. It's like, I don't doubt you. It's just that I feel like there's a very logical... There needs to be a logical ascent in terms of difficulty, but so far I haven't seen it. And I think that it fits the mood and tone of the game, just being this kind of breezy adventure really well, that, you know, it is just a fun thing to do. I would just say that this game has a lot of status effects, and I guess I'm kind of spoiled, but sometimes I don't understand how to deal with those debuffs. Like, sometimes... This has the classic Final Fantasy problem of, shit, I guess I gotta play the game of which of these status effects will leave once this battle is over, and which of these status effects are gonna just slowly kill my characters as I walk in the overworld.
Yeah. It's led to me doing the thing I think I always do in these games, which is when I find my first shop, removes this status thing, I'm like, right, I'm gonna get just 4 of those, just to have them in the bucket.
Just in case.
Yeah, because if they're showing me here that these are things that can happen to me, I'm gonna be ready for it, because there is the kind of nice, the heal equivalent, or the cure status equivalent, seems to be pretty broad, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like kind of an Asana that you get pretty early on.
Yeah. I would just say that... I can't believe I'm going to say this. This is a game where I wish that grinding was a little bit easier.
Huh.
Because it uses real-world, in-game, real-world instancing, you can just, like, clear a field and it's like, hey, there are no enemies here. And it's like, I wish there were spots for me to just power grind. Because... you do, especially in the early portions of this game, you do run out of SP real quick. You do run out of MP real quick.
Yeah.
And I feel like the leveling is a little too convoluted for its own good. In terms of, like, you have these multiple currencies, you have experience points, and, you know, I made the classic mistake, and I guess everyone kind of makes this mistake. It's like, I've got all these special points. I'm going to use them all on Gerudo.
Character.
Oh,
yep.
Fuck! This shit doesn't carry over, or this shit does carry over between characters.
So,
shit.
I'll break it down. So you have spell points, and you have, what is it? CP? No, wait. You have special attacks, and you have magic. And you upgrade both of those from different pools of currencies that are shared among your party members. And spells are attached to a mana egg, which is an item that your character equips. So your character basically is equipped with a spell book that determines what spells they have. They are not, whereas your special attacks are character specific. So like Ryudo has the Tensei Ken Slash.
Yeah.
And that's his thing. But you can also use those skill points to upgrade passive skills, which you get from skill books that have like plus HP or plus strength. And you can have characters equip those skills in a separate menu, because this is a JRPG from 2000, so menus are hard.
Yeah. It's a little... They stack, I think, a couple two things too many things into the, like, equipment-based supplemental shit, as opposed to just having it be, I don't know.
Character-focused? Character-specific?
Sure. Like, I guess 10's solution to this stuff was, like, a weird contemporary was also a little kludgy. Or I guess 9 was actually a little bit more of a contemporary to this, and that seems, I guess, maybe a little more...
The skill books are specifically what I'm thinking of. The skill books really are specifically what I'm thinking of when I say there feels like this game feels like it has almost like one or two too many mechanics to it. And
it's a little
kind of
fiddly.
Muddles it. It is fiddly. But the nice thing is very similar to Final Fantasy X. You feel like there's no way for you to completely fuck up your characters.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be okay. They're going to make it. I guess the other...
It seems generous with the upgrade currency.
The upgrade currency, yes. I think the XP yields seem kind of low.
XP yield is like
time.
surprisingly conservative, yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're kind of gently nudging you maybe by doing that to be like, hey, maybe you should engage with, like, if you want this guy to get stronger, you could just pay this book to give you more strength or whatever, because that's going to happen a lot quicker than your next hard level that you're going to roll.
Yeah. I wish that this had Chrono Crosses or Chrono Trigger's EXP sharing, because this game starts to give you enough characters to where you can't have everyone in your party at the same time fighting. And that's annoying.
I think where we stopped, I think, is pretty much right at, I think, the last point where you'll just have a party of 3. I certainly don't have a 4th person yet, but I think I think I've met my 4th person.
Yeah, I mean, the problem there is that characters just leave, and then they come back in their previously leveled form.
They are slightly higher level.
Yeah, I mean, Elena has perpetually been my lowest level character just because she just fucks off a bunch, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I want to talk about, like, the actual plot of this game, I guess, but I want to talk a little bit about the Elena thing. This was a conversation topic that was recommended by my darling spouse, to, like, get right into it. So there's this whole thing, where, popular media, one could say, video games or otherwise, have this sort of what a woman should be thing, which is like
the Mary Eve dichotomy.
Like, the way she put it is like, media basically depicts, sometimes it's like there are characters who are, the good godly woman, and there's the character that's like the slutty hooker woman. But, like, generally speaking, she says a lot of her friends feel like at different points in their life they kind of are expected to be both almost at the same time. There's a thing that happens in this game which has a plot, and it's not particularly deep, but there is a Shrine Maiden-esque girl who is Elena, it's this party member, that, for lack of a better way to explain it, gets possessed by part of something named after a chain store in the United States, and sometimes turns into, like, I can be your angel or your devil kind of character, who's, I wouldn't say horny necessarily, but is, like, tarted up a little bit or whatever. Like, picture.
She has very
adjective.
Prominent cleavage.
She's got anime cleavage.
Yeah.
Also, we looked this up. Millennia, we'll just spoil who she is.
Sure.
Same voice actor of Ariel from Little Mermaid.
Yeah. That's pretty I mean, that's a get, I suppose.
Well, this is before she got famous.
No, it's after. Little Mermaid was 89, dude.
Oh, shit.
Long time before.
This game came out
Bryan
10 years
Cranston
afterwards.
was doing anime, man, it was great.
That, this is unrelated, but that Skittles game that came out for the GameCube,
Darkened Sky.
Yeah, that voice actress was the voice actress for Princess Jasmine in the Aladdin film. Just fun Disney to forgotten video game crossover voice
Listen,
actors.
shitty action adventure 3D platformers is another spin-off podcast we're gonna do, and it's just gonna be me talking to myself.
Gex 3D on the N64. Is it?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, just going right for the throat. It's kind of a weird thing that they... I mean, whatever. The character... Her personality is basically sometimes I'm cooler, I guess, for lack of a better word, and then otherwise I am just a, like, shrine... Like,
Lawful
she makes
good.
Yuna look like Yuna from Final Fantasy X-2 in terms of her her coolness. I don't know how else to describe this. I think it's kind of lame that this is done. This thread is now over.
Sure. I have no input other than to say that Grandia II is a type of JRPG that existed in that 16-bit forward era of JRPG where all the games in the franchise are entries within a franchise only, because this game has no relationship to Grandia 1 and it has no relationship to Grandia 3. All these games really have...
Grandia Extreme.
All these games have is a connective tissue in terms of their themes, and in particular, and we'll talk about it when we get there, but all of these games have the same Parthian shot ending in terms of the messaging of what it wants you to pull out of its ending.
Okay.
And the theme usually bringing all of these characters together is religion, good versus evil, have at it.
I love the fact that the main villain of this game is called Valmar. Like,
Sure.
specifically because I don't know if you're familiar with a piece of art called Wizard People Dear Reader, but it is a fake audiobook that was written by Brad Neely, which what you do is you take the first Harry Potter film, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and you mute the film, and then you play Wizard People Dear Reader over it, which is basically him stream of conscious narrating more or less a Harry Potter story where Ronald is just called Ronnie the Bear, and it's impossible to describe this thing. I would just recommend you should all just go look up Wizard People Dear Reader, and like it was based on he was in a bar at some point and saw a guy in a hoodie like quietly playing pool, and he was just imagining how fucking hilarious it would be just be like, what's he listening to? And it's just like Harry Potter an audiobook while he's like looking hard. Anyway,
So,
but that's what they call fucking Voldemort. They call him Valmar in there, and it's hysterical. It's like the funniest, dumbest fucking thing in the universe. But yeah, Valmar.
We only recently got done playing Xenosaga, but it's still there in the back of my brain. It's nice that this game was obviously influenced. It still has Judeo-Christian, but I think I read in an interview that the lead design team and the writing team were inspired by Zoroastrianism rather than Judeo-Christian belief systems.
I could see that.
There's a certain Manichaean light versus dark thing going on here specifically. I mean, you have a god figure called Granus, and then a bad person named Valmar. Like their names are good person and bad person, and like the fucking secondary antagonist is just basically named Malfeasance. Like they they weren't really trying all that hard when they came up with these names.
Sure. The only thing that I would say I would add to that is I couldn't stop running all of these different simulations of which games do all of these different parts come from, or which forms of media. Like, the geohounds are very similar to The Witcher, and this game has so many similarities to Final Fantasy X that it's not even funny, but then I think these were evolved independently from one another.
Yeah, because Final Fantasy X came out the year after this game.
It's what we would call this convergent evolution.
Yes, it's like Newton and Leibniz discovering calculus at the same time.
You know what?
Yeah.
The other main difference between this and like contemporary Square games were about 1/10 the budget.
Oh yeah.
And I find that super respectable, because this game
has
like
moxie.
Yes, like punches very far above its weight. Like things that it does, like they're presented in, so there are overworld environments that you are walking through that are rendered in full 3D that can be rotated, which I think is more than what parts of 10 did. I think all of it. I don't think it can really rotate stuff except that fucking crystal room. But then like those are stitched together by like a big bitmap picture of the world that just says like Forest 1 that you
Southern
select to
Silesia.
Yeah. It's a very strange conceit, but, even 10 does some of that shit, like, after you go to all the environments, like, you are just in a spaceship and you're just selecting where to go. So I don't know. Like, there's some presentational budget. That's kind of where you see it, pretty much, is just...
Well, speaking of presentational budget stuff, can we talk about the voice acting now?
Sure.
Yes. So, I want to talk about this because I think this game has what I think we deemed during the Xenosaga podcast as big Toonami energy.
Yeah.
Which is to say, there is like, it is a surprisingly accomplished voice cast. It is people you have heard of, in addition to like Jodie Benson, the voice of Ariel. It's got Cam Clark and Paul Edig and Jennifer Hale all in lead roles.
The Jennifer Hale. The Mass Effect person,
FemShep.
Mm-hmm.
So half the cast of Metal Gear Solid, basically. And they are all doing what I would consider like very enthusiastic, but maybe not consistent direction during the voiced segments.
I think camp may be the best word.
Yeah, and it's weird listening to these voice actors in particular do like super anime voice acting, because Jennifer Hale she has fucking range. She's an accomplished voice actress, and she is but you rarely hear her go full anime, as we all know.
I just feel like that I unlike others, I have not felt the need to criticize this game's voice acting too much, because I feel like it is of an era, and
not every game can be Legacy of Kain.
Sure.
Not
yeah,
every game
that,
from the 90s can have like astoundingly good voice acting.
But not only that, like, this is maybe average for even the time in which it came from. And as someone who grew up during this time, listening to a lot of anime on Toonami, it makes me feel good because, again, I can't help but feel nostalgic. Like, this was a part of my cultural upbringing that I feel like this represents very well. And the voice actors try. I think they really do try, but it's probably kind of that Final Fantasy X era where everyone's in a sound booth and then they have to flap. They don't even need to worry about flapping the lips, but
I think that's a major strength, actually, because I think they are able to kind of put their own spin on stuff. I just think maybe they weren't given a lot of, like,
It's like just read the lines, read as written.
Or even if they weren't given direction, they weren't told like, we want this character to have this like very specific. Like they were just like, okay, this looks kind of dross,
and we'll kind of get to it. But like all of those times where Elena's sad about all her sisters being murdered, or Elena realizes that there's an evil demon woman inside of her.
Yeah,
like all of those emotional scenes just don't work at all.
And a lot of them aren't voiced.
Yeah. And see, that's the weirdest part, is I feel like this game needs more voice acting.
I think some of that came down to
the choose to have the voice acting with are there's like a weird range of them.
Yeah, I think some of that may have just come down to the original medium
Japanese
it was
dub,
on.
yeah.
Well, I mean the Japanese dub and like
the size of a GD-ROM.
Yeah, so not a DVD, a little bigger. I think they're like a 1.5 gig disc. I think Jeff will insert that in post. I think the GameCube ones are 1.5. Maybe that's where I'm pulling that up from. Editor's note. It's a little bit of fluffy math here. It's kind of complicated, but here's the straight dope. A GD-ROM from Sega would hold 984 megabytes of game data, plus some additional security information on a lower density part of the disk. Statements of GD-ROMs holding 1.2 gigabytes of data are greatly exaggerated, including at the time by Sega itself. Anyway, not exactly a ton of room on there for... And this, I think, was a one-disc game, too. On top
Which is bananas.
It definitely was. So, you're cramming anime cutscenes and voice acting and everything else you want. Like, not a ton of music, I guess, so far, actually. But anyway, yeah, all that's got to fit on what amounts to like 2 CDs pressed onto one CD. So
yeah, I mean, I think the music's fine. I met someone in my Twitch chat saying that it was one of their favorite PS2 soundtracks, and I still don't see it, but maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll get there.
The battle theme.
Yeah, I think it's a really good battle theme.
Very jaunty.
But anyways, because again, Jeff, like you hinted at, this isn't a game where we can kind of blow for blow break down the story.
Well, I mean, we can, but it would take us...
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, it would just take us 15 minutes.
So...
Like, it's pretty...
I mean, this is... And oddly enough, it does have different plot threads. Like, each character, I feel like, has an arc of the ones that we have. Other than maybe Roan, but even him and his traveling goof troop friends... are like weirdly well written to where you can kind of understand who they are or what their shit is about. And
this does
this
a thing.
World.
Sorry,
this world has decent world building. Like I feel like this land of I understand the belief system of the Church of Granos. I think I understand what a geohound is, and we haven't even touched the surface or gone beyond the surface in terms of understanding either.
The thing that I like is it does something that's like Tales-esque occasionally, where like you'll get to a natural end of chapter, go to the inn and sleep and save and shit. And it'll just be like, hey, do you want to like have dinner before you turn in? And it's like, sure. And it gives you an opportunity to just kind of like check in with everyone and have them kind of respond.
And everyone, it's
in
kind
voice.
of chat with each other.
Yeah. Those are they're kind of like the Tales sketches, but just a little more realized and also totally optional. Which I guess the Tales ones are too, but yeah.
I love those scenes just because I feel like it shows that there's, actual relationships that are forming during this adventure. And, it's nice to have these characters remind each other that they're not assholes to each other.
Yeah, I think I like that delivery mode too. Like, Final Fantasy games would do the same thing, but it would just be everyone standing around a save crystal, and you walking up to every one of them, and they would be like, wow, I can't believe we survived the explosion. And then you'd talk to them again, and you'd go, we need to be careful to avoid explosions in the future. And then the third time they would go, we need to be careful to avoid explosions, and like just kind of limited, weird feelings.
It is a nice change of pace from Xenosaga's characters a lot of the time just speaking past each other. Listen, I love my boy Chaos, but can you name the number of one-on-one conversations he has with characters who are not Shion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, the NPCs in every environment, like, clue you into stuff, and they're rather responsive to anything that you kind of, like, do in the world. It's well done. I like it. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah. Even beyond them being kind of helpful, too, I really appreciate quote-unquote hardcore gamers are howling at this feature, but in the upper right of the screen, there's literally just a fucking compass that not only is pointing at where you want to go, but also gives you, like, a sort of indication how close you are to it. And if you want to just, like, fucking dip out of a dungeon, it's a button press from just turning it to, hey, you want to go back to where you were? Sure, just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and in town, it also points to, like, the inn and the general store.
Yeah. It's, I think it sort of indicates the sort of game this aspires to be, in a way, which is not... This is not going to be a fucking 80-hour game. Like, you've probably done some... You've made some choices if this game
is going to take this game
40 hours. Yeah. Do we
enjoy exploring the environments. I enjoy seeing how each different town is different from the other. Like, you know, you start in Carbo Village, which is this kind of podunk town with, like, one inn, a couple of homes, and then a church. And then you go to the next couple of environments, and they're all different. The one thing that I think that I did not like about the environments is when you do get to the dungeons, navigating them and the texture work, especially in the underground environments, it's all a bunch of brown, black, and just gray environments, and it's really easy to get yourself lost. I mean, the first cave system was like, what was it, the Durham Caves? And then eventually, what was the second cave system where it's just, you're underground and it's really dark?
Where you're working with Rowan to get his shit back?
Getting Rowan his amulet.
Yeah.
That, ugh. But then again, like, on the other hand, I like the exterior environments are great.
There's just enough little breadcrumby things that it's worth exploring, kind of extensively in there. Like, nothing's incredible, but, you know.
You know, with Roan and all of these different characters, just, like, popping a couple of points or coins to see this new attack, even if it's completely useless, like, is fun. It kind of reminds me of Chrono Cross whenever you get a new character. It's like, I want to see what your special abilities are.
Yeah, let's test drive this turnip.
Disappear into the ether because I'm sticking with the same 3 characters.
Yeah. God. We should probably just quickly run
at
down.
Least summarize the first, you know, however long we've played. Like,
literally, it will take 10 minutes.
6-7 hours.
So we get a sort of in medias res with a character named Ryudo, who introduces himself as a geohound, a sort of mercenary who has a pet bird named Sky that talks. And Ryudo is basically in the process of taking up a job to help I keep referring to her as a shrine maiden, but she is a sister of the Church of Granus, and her job title is apparently songstress, named Elena. And basically is told by priest of town, hey, escort this girl to a shrine somewhere else. They will do a ritual, then you will bring her back. You will get paid, my dude. And he is like, I don't care about the church or women. He's a real shitty teen.
He is a shitty anime man who is going to learn about the value of friendship. Literally written in my notes, there's a line where it's like, excuses and women are equally tiring, which was a voiced line.
He has a powerful Squall-esque energy, I guess, about him.
He is a misanthrope.
Yeah, the U.S. version of Squall, as opposed to the Japanese version of Squall, who was constantly apologizing, I guess.
There's definitely some some early 2000s localization choices here too.
Like, what stuck out?
The part where he tells the priest that I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I need to pull up my notes, too, but I definitely wrote that. I was like, okay, we're just,
They do some... The English definitely does some weird references that I can only imagine
it's
are not in the
full
original
working
Japanese.
designs, but...
Yeah, you can take the working designs out of the game arts, but you can't the other. It's just a bummer. Rito cannot stand God or women. It's just really good stuff.
Well, we remember later, guys, we see a flashback where Ryudo gets triggered, and we kind of know that maybe something bad happened to him related to the church. But anyways, keep going.
So this escort goes through, your beginning forest environment where you learn how to fight good. And the structure of this kind of reminds me of East 3 a lot, I think. Or maybe more the Orth and Thelgana. In the sense that it's just kind of... Maybe it sort of splits the difference between the two. Like, the interstitial areas are just kind of for your getting around grinding. This is true of all JRPGs. I don't know. This reminded me of East in a way that made me very happy. But then jump off into the first Airsats dungeon, which is this, like, shrine tower. And you're just told basically, hey, wait outside while we do our religion shit. And you're like, that's cool. Whatever. I don't care. But then you hear, like, sad murder death noises, and you're like, oh, I should probably go in there now. So you do go in there now, and Elena has sprouted wings, basically, which
Wings of Black Shadow.
Black Shadow, which are a sign of possession by Valmar.
Yeah, there's weird... One of the themes about Valmar is that Valmar got defeated in the War of Good and Evil.
The Battle of Good and Evil, which they refer to multiple times, capitalized proper noun.
Yeah.
Which I want to just point out that
at one point he makes a crack.
Does say, couldn't they have come up with a better name? It's like, not going to revisit this. We're going to keep going. Battle of Good and Evil.
Yeah, it's like a first pass dungeon master sort of thing. It's just like
Dark.
Good, the great the Great War. That's what it was. Just go with it. You can DM the next one, Phil. Anyway.
But anyways, so...
Also, all of her compatriots are dead. Basically.
All of them are dead. So the term sister and father... The father did lose his daughter. One of those girls was his daughter. They're dead. You break her out, and then when you transport her back to the town, I forget, why was she in the tower in the first place? She has to perform some sort of ritual.
They were going to seal away the darkness.
Yes.
Okay, they're going to seal away the darkness. So they go back to town, and this is when they get attacked by Millennia. And it's the first time we see Millennia.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they put you in one of those fun, unwinnable fights, basically.
Yeah.
A plot fight, if you will. Which you're then like, oh, maybe you'll get me next time. Ta-ta for now.
But remember, guys, she disappears into a electrical ball of energy, and then Elena comes back. And remember, Millennia introduces herself as the Wings of Valmar.
Yeah.
So, oh no. This is a sign of Valmar possession, which is apparently bad and irreversible, probably.
Except maybe not. They gotta go on a heroic journey to the anime Pope.
Yes, the Pope whose name is Zera Innocentius, which is amazing. I love it.
How much you want to bet this Pope is actually evil, guys?
What?
Probably totally
a church
above
in a JRPG being evil.
The first time this character crosses his fingers on a table and says, "It's time," or "So it has begun," I'm gonna fucking whoop. I'm gonna stand up out of my chair and go, hell yeah. Yeah, so now, oh my god, the term has changed. The contract has gotten weird. Oh no. So they're like, fuck it, you want this statue? And he's like, okay. They sort of, but thou
Work
must.
is work.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to take you
People
to see,
don't like the
fantasy
geohounds except when they need a geohound. Get it? It's a plot thing.
Yeah, it's a whole Ronin fucking issue.
Okay.
So it's like, great, let's roll to the Pope. On your way to the Pope, you cross through a village that has pretty much been completely fucking busted up.
Yep.
In a bad way. And there's what amounts to, like, a circus troupe in town, like, being like, yep, we're just passing through here as well. And a youngling is with them who's like, oh shit, my mom's ring got picked up by a nearby monster.
Amulet.
It's an amulet.
That's
right.
That's my
you can
young
later
anime
equip
boy
it.
voice.
This town is called Agir, I think. Agir.
It has Vix the innkeeper.
Yeah,
who's an
like
old friend of Ryudo, because Ryudo's been around town, and
this establishes Ryudo as a Ronin who's like explored and gone around the world and knows people.
Ronin wants his amulet back. He begs for your assistance. Elena, this is where we learn that Elena wants to help everyone all the time, and you know what? I actually like Ryudo doing those scenes. It's like, girl, are we literally going to solve every single person's problems? You've got the devil in you. We got to go.
Yeah.
Like Ryudo's shitty, we can't be stopping every single time character quirk is actually really well done, and it makes me laugh almost all the time.
He sucks, but he makes sense.
Yeah. His motivations are clear. There's no, like, I wonder, like, or I don't know, I guess you said there was a weird Parthian shot at the end, but I can sort of see his arc already spreading before me, and we're like 6 hours into the game. But you do wind up getting conned into this side arc of helping this kid recover his mom's amulet, and you get a surprise transformation appearance of Millennia, who helps you through this dungeon.
Yeah, she's a sassy lady. She likes Ryudo.
She has a crossbow.
She has a crossbow.
She's good at using magic.
This
is the first time when I used a special ability and it gave me an anime cutscene because she has an early one.
This was the dungeon that you go through to get this amulet has what I will characterize as light environmental puzzle solving.
Yeah. She gives Rowan a special pillow hug.
I don't hate the puzzles just because I feel like they are communicated well and there are prompts and stuff, but it's literally like, hey, here's a little thing that you need to press. The problem is that when that shit disappears, when like the prompts disappear, I thought that sometimes it's like, oh, I'm done interacting with this object. Nope, you got to keep pushing it.
This was the boss fight that happens at the end of this dungeon where I was like, oh, okay, I fully understand why people talk about this game now, because it was the first boss I was able to just like chain cancel and just kept that boss stun locked for like the last 2/3 of its health bar.
One of the consequences about the random encounters is that I feel like there aren't enough like you versus one enemy to practice your juggling and target cancel stuff or your cancel abilities, because when there is a bunch of just trash mobs, it's harder for you to kind of crystallize, juggling and canceling and some of the inner mechanics here. But it feels really good when you do it on a boss.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievably good. In fact, I was like, okay.
You also get your first mana egg around this time, and they're fine. I don't know if I like this mana egg system in terms of this is how you get the magic. I think it's a little too simplified, and sometimes the names of the mana eggs is fraudulent. Like, I thought when I saw Holy Egg, oh, this is how I make my character the healer, but no.
This game definitely going for the late PS1 Final Fantasy tack of everyone can kind of do everything.
Yeah, you definitely, like, with the way you can rotate and spread out, definitely the eggs. Yeah.
You would think Elena would be the healer, and she kind of is, but also one of her tech attacks is literally just she throws a grenade.
Right. And, like, Roan's got, like, Roan was actually kind of my heal bot for that dungeon at a certain point.
But then you can use his weird little hammer attack. And then he just summons an ice attack. It's like, wait, he has that giant snowball thing, and then that confused me because it's like, wait, do the characters have expressed elemental affinities or not?
No.
Kind of, not really.
But yes, you successfully get this amulet. The traveling circus folk are thrilled that Rowan has this amulet because they didn't have to do any work to help acquire said amulet. And this child just basically starts rolling with you. You leave town, you go through another interstitial environmental area, and then you're encountered by a very large beast man, which is another boss fight. Gives you an opportunity to try to do your cancel chaining shit. And it's right after you've camped, which is kind of in medias.
This game is generous with its save points, and you can heal fully at save points.
Right.
Like, I appreciate how breezy this game is.
Breezy is a fine word. Breezy with really dynamic combat.
Yeah.
Like, inviting to continue playing. Upon defeating this giant beast man, he basically is like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I thought you were this other guy who looks exactly like you, but sucks. And
then
like,
Ryudo's like, wait, my brother? And of course, because he's voiced by Liquid Snake, that just immediately popped up into my head, even though he's not doing the voice.
God.
And it's like, oh, Ryudo has an evil brother who will probably show up. Named Melphis?
Yeah.
Melphis.
Just, again, didn't exactly, like, didn't even turn the page of the thesaurus from, like, Valmar or whatever. Just make a bad, evil-sounding name. Like, Doom Man.
Dark.
Yes.
Doom Dark Evil Man.
Stab Hatred. Anyway,
Asarak.
So you go to probably the best environment or the best town so far. What is it? Liligue City.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is big.
It's big. It's the biggest environment in the game so far, and I love it. It's like some sort of like cyberpunk futuristic city. It's got like anachronistic like design to it, and they even explain why it has all these different anachronisms where it's like, why is this part just an ancient pillar and then this part is just this sky train? It's a great environment. I don't know how far you guys got into this, but I completed this level and that's kind of where I stopped. But again, the part where you have to go in the cave for this level, this is the one that sucks a lot of shit. Like the lantern parts, the like troughs or trenches.
Okay.
That sucked.
I just started that dungeon.
I got to the entrance of the town and no farther, so.
Yeah. This town is great. I love it. I like this game a lot. But I feel like they could have like, this is the only criticism. I don't feel like they could have definitely given us more storytelling hooks. I know that this game's appeal is not its story, but they could have given us a little more meat on that bone. Because I think it's going to try a lot.
I'm enthusiastic about it.
And I want it to get weird. Like, the whole part about, like, the different body parts of Valmar, like...
Yeah.
I feel like it should have leaned into it, because so we've seen like the tongue of Valmar, like we've seen different parts. Like, give me more of this. Yeah. This is the good shit, but it plays really good.
Yeah, I can't emphasize this enough.
There's a reason why we spent most of this podcast talking about the mechanics. It's good shit.
It's good shit, man.
I think if the plot holds up literally any weight at all, this thing sails into like squarely good game
First
territory.
place.
Yeah, like there's a reason.
Maybe second.
Like
Yeah.
the
No, I
Dreamcast
think
did
I
not
can't-
have. Sorry,
How does this game fuck up and go below Xenosaga? You tell me.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
listen, I like as a video game, this is better than Xenosaga immediately. Just the first 6 hours that I've played, by sheer virtue of being fun to play.
Yeah, I think just by virtue of not
But,
being
yeah.
another ATB-ish, like I don't know. It's the same reason I don't want to play Empire Total War again. Like, I just don't want to have two ranks of soldiers standing across from each other, shooting at each other over and over again for like
That's
50
why
hours.
you should join. That's why you should
gotta
join
play
Braden.
Warhammer, Jeff.
You gotta play Warhammer too. You gotta join us.
I played a lot of Empire.
Jeff, they're doing a
Total-
Beastmen rework, Jeff.
Yeah, they're gonna make the worst faction good again.
I just
They're
don't.
gonna give him an evil boar, cyberpunk boar dude.
I just don't care about Warhammer at all. But I've played a lot of Total War.
You know
over the
what?
years.
Both of us didn't care about Warhammer.
I
and
didn't
then we
care
got
about
into-
Warhammer, and now I'm all about Tarox the Brass Bull, Jeff.
Rikarth would probably be your favorite person.
Just give me like. Give me my memory of like Rome Total War mods.
Have you
actually.
seen that
Oh, yeah.
Khorne roster revealed, Jeff? Even their artillery is a melee unit.
Huh.
They shoot fireballs and then they fight real good.
Well, anyway. Point being, yeah, like I don't want to look at two sets of characters standing across from each other and select like attack 500,000 times for 40 hours again for a minute. And this isn't like completely 100% divorced from that fundamental design, but there's enough that differentiates it that I'm like very on board and I'm very happy you chose
Yeah.
this.
I'm very happy that we chose this after our Kusoge episode.
Honestly,
After our
give me more
Xenosaga
Kusoge
episode,
too.
even. Like,
Yeah.
we played. I don't know where your guys' time is. For me, I think it's 8 hours, and it doesn't feel like 8 hours.
Mine's
Let me-
sitting like 5.5, but I didn't go through this city at all yet. I just got there and saved.
I went through that city and then some, and
Yeah.
its Steam says that I have played 12 and a half hours. It doesn't feel like that. It feels less.
Yeah. And again,
And I
to
don't
be clear,
want that.
I'm playing, in some sense, the least
The
comfortable
worst.
version of this to play on that shitty fucking controller, and I'm like 100% sticking with it. There was a
Yeah.
hot moment where I was going to try to pick this up elsewhere. This would have been very neat to play on a Switch.
It's on sale
especially.
right now on Switch.
Yeah.
That's good. It wasn't at the time, so it was $40, and I was like, well, $40 for this versus, again, the Dreamcast money that I've spent.
Okay. Gentlemen, before we wrap up, what do you think is a prediction? So, Jeff, you kind of already issued your prediction. Jeff, back to you. What is a prediction of what you think we're going to see?
Beyond Evil Pope, I'm going to try not to... I'm going to close this Game FAQ tab and close this Wiki tab so I don't bias myself at all.
Do you think we're going to go into the literal belly of the... We're going to obviously be in, like, Valmar's stomach at some point, right? Like, we're going to fight Valmar's body.
I hadn't thought about that. I'm guessing the Beast people, we're going to go learn more about their culture, and they're going to turn out to have, like, weird... Like, they're actually going to be, like, very vigilant vegans or something. Like, they look all big and mean, but they're actually, like, secretly into,
What
like,
would be
who's
the
best
most
hugger?
JRPG body part that we fight? Maybe a giant eyeball?
Yeah. Well, if we want to talk about fighting giant eyeballs,
brain.
that's a
No,
future
I got it.
podcast.
I got it. Like Andros, brain with eyeballs still attached.
Yeah, I was gonna say brain. Like, I'm thinking Legend of the Crystals. Just give me a brain. Zombie brain.
Yeah. That's my prediction. Giant eyeball, brain.
I
eyeball
predict that
attack.
maybe actually the Wings of Darkness not as bad as they seem, and maybe Millennia isn't a bad lady after all. That, or she is a bad lady and betrays the party like 15 hours in. One of two ways to go.
So
there'll be some there'll be some overarching thing about balance. That's like the dumb turn it'll go to be like, actually, both of these forces are needed. Like,
the Shin Megami Tensei centrist approach.
The drill tweet of like, actually, there's no difference between a good thing and a bad thing. You fucking idiot!
No, that's our KOTOR 2 podcast.
Yeah.
There's no difference between good things and bad things, you fucking idiot.
We're gonna play KOTOR.
We got a lot of ideas.
So we will cover.
Boom.
I think we should at least plan being 2, if not 3 parts of this. I don't know if I want to play 20 hours of any game.
I would say if you guys have not done that dungeon is a solid hour. I will probably
this game moves quickly enough that
let's say so you guys I believe the stopping point's about 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
Let's say like 10. Say 10. There's an IGN guide that breaks this entire game into 2 parts or 4 parts. And getting to Ligyu City is the start of part 2. So that would seem to suggest that we finish part 3 of this guide, which I'm not clicking part 3 because I'm not done there yet. But, game good.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time.
Again, I'm going to keep... Unless this game completely fucks up the ending, or it becomes, like, ridiculously hard... I cannot envision a way where this game does not beat Xenosaga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprised I'm there, but
I deeply love Xenosaga's brand of absolute bullshit and raw ambition, but this is like a better meat and potatoes video game.
Yep. So that's it. We will be posting more information about as far as we're going. It looks like Lumiere Forest is like a good mile marker for us. But yeah, so thank you. Thanks, listeners, for tuning in to this installment of Off the Deep End. Once again, if you'd like to send in questions, inquiries, comments, complaints, prayer concerns, they can all go to inquiries@deep.lol. You can follow...
Actually...
Oh?
I have a specific suggestion if the readers want to tune in. So I think the way we've decided to go forward with this podcast is do the big game, which takes multiple episodes, and then do some interstitial episodes between those. If you, the listener at home, have any suggestions or ideas for future games we can play for this podcast that, would only be visited for like an episode or 2, why not write in at inquiries.deep.lol?
That would be appreciated. Structural comments are good.
Otherwise, I'm just going to be imposing my will upon you. We're going to play some weird stuff.
We're still going to do a Kosoge episode 2, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually had a lot of fun with that, and I've come up with a couple interesting.
I played the Elder Scrolls Battlespire recently on stream.
Oh, fuck you.
I will say, I am scrolling to make sure that no one has commented on YouTube versions of these, because I'd be surprised if they did.
Yeah, we've got some time to
spam box.
Daniel Liu on our middle Xenosaga episode comments have not heard or played a Xenosaga game. This was a trip. It was a trip, and we are happy to have done it for you. If you would like to direct us towards other trips, feel free to do so. Because I imagine everyone's got some weird shit they've seen.
Okay, real quick. How committed are we to JRPGs or CRPGs being the only genre we visit on this series? Because
I think we can definitely adventure into the I think the idea for this podcast is more just games Gino Grieco won't play.
Yeah.
So I am willing to play stuff outside of the, strict traditionalist definition of an RPG.
We still got to do what we normally do at the end of a podcast where we didn't finish a game. Do we have any votes to skip?
Oh, yes.
Nope.
No. We're good.
No,
I'm having a
hell
great time.
No. We all are unanimously in agreement that we will continue to play this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
More Grandia 2 next time. If you would like to talk to us about Grandia 2, another way you can do that is definitely getting to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/deeplistens. Any contribution there, super appreciated. Thanks to those who are already contributing. That's incredibly kind of you. We have had a couple people join the Discord over the last, couple weeks, and that's appreciated. Special thanks again to SuperSex420 to provide the hit song Halfway as theme music and outro music on this show. You can find other great tracks from SuperSex420 on Bandcamp.com. To search for SuperSex420. That's it. That's where we're going to end this one. We will see you next time. And remember, if you're planning on playing Sonic Adventure 2 on the Dreamcast, you might as well just buy another memory card, a VMU specifically, because that's your Chow Garden's going to eat like half that thing.
Sonic fucks.
Bye.
He does not. Bye.
This episode of Off the Deep End was recorded and edited on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Nisqually or Nisqually people, who have lived on and stewarded these lands and waters since times immemorial.